Hi, and welcome to Plumgood Quilting's tutorial on how to attach a webcam to your Longarm Quilter. Now, I've shown a few customers who got themselves a Longarm how to deal with this. When you're not a very experienced quilter, it's common to not realize that your bobbin stitch underneath your Longarm is not what you'd like it to be. Maybe the tension's off, or you change thread to a different type and it's just not stitching out like you'd like it to stitch out. And the problem with the long arm when this happens is that you could stitch quite a ways before you realize this, and then you've got yourself a mess and you'll spend half an hour picking it out, especially if it is a customer quilt or it's something of yours that's special that you really want to do a good job on. So there's a few ways that are a little old school that some people do. You can get a flashlight and stick your head underneath the long arm and look to see what's going on. It's also common to use a mirror to stick it under there, but I figured out a way to attach a low light motion detecting webcam to the underside of any long arm, and it's amazing. It works fantastic. It just keeps you from having to crawl around on the floor. You can make it work this way on uh, any long arm. I've tried quite a few different methods and they all work well. The best part about this is that there are a couple of uh, webcams that are out on the market specifically for this process. The only problem is they're really expensive, and so if you're just getting started out, anything you can do that will just make your life easier and not cost quite as much until you really know this is what you're wanting to do is a great alternative. So the first thing you're going to need for this is, well, first of all, when you have a very large quilt on your long arm frame, even if you have a room with good light or natural daylight from windows, when you put the large quilts on your frame and you've got the majority of your quilt hanging down the front of your frame, it blocks the light that would be coming underneath your long arm. And with a lot of webcams, this is an issue. They don't like low light. So just to help this process out with any webcam that you choose, I buy a couple of $10 fluorescent lights that you can plug in an extension cord and throw on the floor underneath the webcam. And that way, if you need to move them down the pike there, you can just kick it along, or at least you'll have something under there that's got light shooting from the floor up onto your quilt, and it just makes the picture that you're seeing even better. The second thing you need is an extension cable. You need a USB extension cable. I think mine is 10 or 15 feet long. One end of it is male and one end is female, and one end will plug from your webcam USB port into your mini laptop or whatever you're choosing to use to plug in your USB to be able to see the webcam picture. And the next thing you're going to need is some adhesive Velcro. Now, you need the kind with the adhesive on the back. Although the picture is for the like a 2-inch wide, I think I originally purchased the industrial Velcro in a sheet, like a 4x6 sheet, and then I cut it to the size that I wanted it. So I do prefer the sheet over the 1-inch strips, and also the industrial, because the adhesive is much stronger and you have a lot of vibration with the long arm when it's stitching out, especially if you have a Statler stitcher or a Pro stitcher on there. You're going to be going much faster many times than you would be if you were just quilting on your own. And the last thing is your webcam. Now, this webcam is probably a year and a half, 2 years old. I thought it was a fantastic deal. At the time, it was $120, but I found it for $50 on the internet. There are 3 functions that you really need in your webcam, and this is the important part of checking it out. Now, I think they still do have this one available, and I like it. Like I said, I've enjoyed it. I've used it for quite a few processes. You need one that is low light and motion detecting. This way, this one sort of has a swivel head on it, and it has a roving eye that looks to self-focus when it's going around at a high rate of speed and you're stitching out on top of it. It can focus very quickly and be able to let you see that stitch as it is in real time. So it's like I said, it's really important that you get one that does well with low light situation, because when you put light on it, it's just going to be fantastic. The picture's phenomenal that way. Okay, here's a picture of the underside of my long arm, and I have a quilt back on there so I can show you how this is working. Now, the carriage system on the bottom side of this long arm is set up so that I had plenty of space to put this Velcro here. So what I did was I put the sturdier side of the Velcro, the adhesive, I cut it to fit here. So as you can see, I stuck it on this part. Now I promise, when you put the rest of this stuff on there, as long as you have the USB extension cable and you let it hang directly down this way and not over your carriage system, you will have zero problems. I have never had it tangle in 2 years. So you must let it hang down freely this way. That's why you need the tough Velcro to keep your camera stable on this area right here. Now here I'm showing you what it looks like on the camera. Now the back side of my camera has sort of a flip edge because it's meant to really sit over the top of your laptop or whatever, but it works out great for this because then I can put the other piece of Velcro on this section right here. Now this section right here is sort of a swivel head, and it swivels back and forth this way. There's a microphone on here, and I have used that before to make notes to myself when it's taping. And then the roving eye is behind my thumb right here. Okay, so as you can see, I took the Velcro section here and Velcroed it and pushed it securely up on the Velcro that's on the carriage system. And as you can see, the cable is hanging down here. Now you want to make sure that cable stays hanging down straight here. Do not loop it over any section, any of your carriage section, because when your long arm goes backwards like that, you could get your cabling caught in the trolley section where the wheels are. So like I said, just leave it hanging down in the center. Now when you put this on here, it's easy to secure it with that. You can also make yourself a couple of extra little strips of Velcro from the pre-cut, and you could loop it around here any way you need to. I have stuck it right here before and looped it across where my hand is and stuck it on the other side, because as it stitches sometimes it'll really jiggle out, especially if you have a very dense pattern that's doing this in a tight space. Then you've got way more vibration going on, and like I said, this industrial Velcro does a fantastic job of holding it in place. And this part right here is really wonderful for this, the fact that you can rotate this to and fro. If I have a really tiny thread, I don't know, there are many times that I do a 60 to 100 weight in my pre-wound bobbins on the bottom, and if I do that, then I can have this head swiveled up where it's closer and it focuses in on the fabric here. If I have a larger thread, a lot of times I have to turn the head this way to the left a little so that it's sort of looking at an angle for it to get the best picture and be able to focus well on the fabric. So that's just a great thing to start, and you can, that way you have that leeway no matter which thread and which fabric you're using. It will autofocus well. Now I'm showing you here, see the cable is hanging down from my long arm, and over here I'm showing you where I attached the end of the webcam cable into the extension cable. And then the other end is going to plug into my laptop, which I have on a little rolling microwave cart next to my long arm with my supplies, my red snappers that I can't do without, my scissors for my scissors for cutting the batting, my sandbags that I used to help me out with my stitching. So when each webcam has a different software that'll run on there that usually comes with it. This is in the smaller mode. You can make it as big as your full screen, but I promise you I have no problem seeing this, and I might sometimes be 4 to 6 feet away from it, but the picture is so good that you can see the stitching on here. I'll try to add an additional video of it stitching out. That way you can see how it does. But see how clear this is? You can see the fabric well, and I've got my overhead lights on the ceiling here. There's a glare in the picture, but you don't really have that in real life. So like I said, you can see it perfectly. It just stitches out on here, no problem, and it's just so great. So much better than crawling around under the long arm with your flashlight or using your mirror and just constantly having to deal with tension issues on the floor. As you get older, it just gets a little unnerving. Well, I hope this really helped you out. And if anybody has any questions or they need any other help with this, I'd be happy to answer them. You can email me at annette@plumgoodquilting.com. And just to give myself a little street cred, I'm actually a software developer, so I do that on the side, and I build audio encampments for and projection equipment stuff for other companies. So I do know what I'm talking about here. So if you're having some technical difficulty with the software, or you're having a problem setting up your webcam and getting it to work with your computer, I would also be happy to remote in and help you with that, because I know what a help this can be. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and I answered your questions well enough. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.